Howdy, it's Jim Arado, and this is late November 2021, and we are in pretty much the Shiloh National Park area in Tennessee. It's between Memphis and Nashville, and we have stopped at. And this is maybe just a couple miles from the National Park Visitor Center, maybe a few miles, but this is the Shiloh Tours Museum. Their website is shilohtours.com, I believe, and this is owned and operated by a fellow named Larry Deberry. And I googled around about Larry. We were looking to see if there were any battlefield tour guides for Shiloh, and his name popped up quite a bit. And we ended up hiring him for a 3-hour battlefield tour. It's $5 to go through the museum here. It's a small museum, but it's jam-packed. And if you hire Larry for a battlefield tour, you can go through the museum for free. So that's kind of nice. And he actually sells various items too here, and it's just a nice little gift shop slash museum slash battlefield tour guide service. But yeah, check out all these relics. And I talked to Larry about this. I believe most of these, I think he found himself. He's lived in Shiloh all of his life, and it's been a very full life for him. And his family, going back several generations, grew up here also. And in fact, a lot of his ancestors were here at the time of the battle. And he's got some interesting stories. I don't want to get into it too much because those are his stories, and you should really you should make it down to Shiloh and talk to Larry about it yourself. Just because he's got so many stories. Yeah, check all of that out. I know he said, he's been relic hunting for years and has just found a ton of stuff. Of course, you probably know it's illegal to hunt for relics on national park ground. I'm pretty sure he found everything on private property nearby that's not actually on the national park property. Or he inherited it from family members, but he obtained all of it legally. But he's just got a heck of a display. In fact, his relics, to me, this was more impressive than what the national park has at their visitor center. And you get to talk to Larry about them. I'm pretty sure I saw people come in and out. You don't have to hire him for a battlefield guide to talk to him, and he's a wealth of information, and he seemed eager to share that with just about everybody. And at the National Park Visitor Center, with the pandemic and all that going on, there, everybody's wearing a mask. The volunteers and staff there are pretty busy, and it's it's just a different experience going and talking to Larry at his private museum compared to going to the Shiloh Visitor Center, where they're having a lot more foot traffic coming in and out, and probably having a little bit of a staff shortage like everybody else. But I really enjoyed being here with Larry. I know he had some people helping him out, and they were really sweet also. But this is just a great museum, and as you can tell, it covers more than just the Civil War and the Battle of Shiloh, even though that's its focus. We'll see it here in a moment, but he also has a collection of painted metal miniatures. You see some of them kind of peppered in through his displays, but he has just a really impressive collection of miniatures. I paint toy soldiers myself, and I love looking at that sort of thing. He tells the story, and again, it's one I'll let you go to Shiloh and have Larry tell you. But a friend was telling him about how I believe it was their father painted a bunch of miniatures, and after his passing, they weren't sure what to do with all those figures. And Larry said, well, I'll take them and put them up in the museum, and that's exactly what he's done. So if you're into military miniatures, Larry has a really cool display of them here at the museum. And just in a nutshell, too, and I'll probably put up a little video about our battlefield tour, but we hired Larry for a 3-hour tour of the battlefield. It was a little bit over $100, and it was absolutely well worth what we paid for it. We got a whole lot more than a 3-hour battlefield tour out of it. And I don't want to go into everything, because I don't know what all Larry is. I don't know what all extras he gives on every tour. But our battlefield tour was definitely longer than 3 hours. And, I feel like if you're an enthusiastic traveler, he will really, really give you your money's worth on a tour. And he had some great stories. He went over the whole battle, hit all the high points. We were all over the battlefield. And then he also has some great, I guess you would say, side stories. Stories about Shiloh that you might not get from a lot of the main books on Shiloh. Of course, he has his family connections to Shiloh, and he just has a lot of personal stories himself relating to Shiloh. And again, I don't want to get into them because they're his stories, but yeah, it was just a real treat touring the battlefield with him. Yeah, and Shiloh's such a great park. It's definitely one I want to get back to again very soon, just because it packs such a wallop. I know we've gone to Stones River, Murfreesboro several times. I love that park. It's a lot of fun. They've got a great visitor center. The Shiloh's just a little bit further out of the way for us, but I'm glad we finally made it there. But I'm just itching to get back again. And we also stayed. I wanted to mention we stayed at Pickwick Landing Lodge at Pickwick Landing State Park, maybe 10 miles from the battlefield. Wonderful lodge. They just renovated it, and it was so perfect. It was beautiful. Friendly staff, and we ordered food every night we were there. Just a great time. I wanted to give them a quick endorsement too while I'm thinking about it. This is a great area though. And I would imagine, especially if you live in Memphis or Nashville, this would be a great area to get away. Very rural, very scenic. It's a nice drive. And you've also got Corinth, Mississippi, 25 minute drive from here. There's a national park unit there also, which is linked to Shiloh. I think it's part of the Shiloh National Park. But they have their own museum and visitor center, and a nice walking and driving tour you can do through there. There's also Parker's Crossroads, which is nearby, and we stopped there too. I'll put up videos about those later on. Look at all that artillery shell, and just check out all these relics here. This is really incredible to see all this in one spot. I'm sorry, I gotta quit watching the videos while I'm talking. but yeah, just an incredible collection of relics. I will say Larry told me several stories about other relic hunters that he's known and some of their adventures. I'm sure I'll say this again, but a really good battlefield tour, a really good tour. I felt like Larry told us the whole story of Shiloh. Even though I've read up on it, I feel like he gave us the big picture. If I had not read up on Shiloh before this tour, I would definitely have a feel for the battle after the tour. Plus, he gave me some little crumbs of information that made me want to research the area and the battlefield even more. He kind of dropped some nuggets about a female soldier whose remains were found buried with male soldiers, and kind of a little known story there. He got into the Indian mounds that are there on the battlefield. That those are always fun and neat, but he was talking about the clay in the ground and how the Native Americans used that. Just kind of really added something special to it. There were a couple of other stories he mentioned. Oh yeah, about about some of the dead, especially the dead Confederates that are still buried on the battlefield. Through his 70 plus years of exploring the area, he knows about some grave spots that others might not even know about. And there are some trenches where the Confederates were buried in mass graves, and I believe there are 5 known spots still on the battlefield that have been marked, and there are still some that they know are there, but they don't know where they're at. And just interesting stuff. He also gave us, with our tour, he gave us a folder with some flyers about the stories I just mentioned, and also about the Battle of Shiloh itself. I love this kind of stuff. You can see right there, there's a log with a bullet in it. He also, I think we passed it a moment ago, there's a bullet that was struck by another bullet in air. And how crazy is that? And that is the Civil War for you. But yeah, this was just kind of a quick run through of Larry's museum before we did our battlefield tour with him, which was mostly driving, but we got out of our car quite a bit and walked around. And of course, he showed us, the high spots that you want to see when you go see Shiloh. The spot where Albert Sidney Johnston was shot and died. There's the bloody pond, the sunken road. There are certain spots you definitely want to see while you're at Shiloh. And I mentioned a couple of kind of obscure spots that I had read about. And, I mentioned to Larry kind of at the end of our tour, like, hey, are we going to see this spot? Are we going to see that spot? And even though our tour really was over, he insisted on kind of going out of our way a little bit to go see those spots I mentioned. He wanted to make sure that I saw everything about Shiloh that I wanted to see. And I thought that was just great. Yeah, we're about to get over to his miniatures over here. They are nicely displayed. Oh, he's got some Elvis stuff there. I meant to talk to him about his Elvis collection, and I didn't even get to that, which is a shame because I love Elvis. But yeah, he has some miniatures over here. You might recognize some of them. I recognized some of the Marx presidents, which are not metal, but they look great. He had some Mike Allen miniatures that I love. Yeah, these guys all look great. I did kind of a quick skim. I was hoping to maybe get some pictures of some of these guys just for photo reference for when I'm painting soldiers. But I got carried away talking about Shiloh and missed out on some of this. But yeah, look at some of these miniatures. And again, I recognize some of them as Mike Allen, a great company that makes some of the personalities from the Civil War. I mentioned that I paint soldiers myself. I pretty much stick to the Civil War. That's my main thing. The Alamo. I do some cowboy and Indian kind of stuff. I've done some World War II, but it seems like everybody does World War II. I'll do some other odd soldiers here and there, but mostly the Alamo and Civil War is what I do. Some nice little dioramas here too. Some Rough Riders. And these are all kind of in that 30-second scale area that a lot of people paint. That's probably my favorite scale. I do some 1/72 and War Game scale too, which are smaller. It's kind of good for dioramas, but yeah, it's so nice looking at the toy soldiers. I would think if you had a kid or somebody coming to do the battlefield tour with you, they might get a real kick out of looking at the toy soldiers. When I was a little kid, I loved looking at toy soldiers. Like if we went to a museum or a nice toy store, I really got excited about toy soldiers. I don't know if kids get excited about toy soldiers anymore though, but yeah, the Battle of Shiloh. This is, as you can see, just a very nice little museum, and Larry was a great host for about half a day for us, and we had a great battlefield tour and got to see his museum and his miniatures. We actually took our dog with us. We have a little dog. He did really well on this trip. Oh, look at those guys. Plains Indians, okay, yeah. Yeah, but Larry was great. My wife was also on call for her work, but that didn't really interrupt our battlefield tour. But he was great. You can tell he's kind of passionate about Shiloh and his museum. We started our tour actually sitting at this table. He talked to us for probably 15 minutes or so about the battle. Then we got in our car and we went and hit probably every stop you could possibly hit on the battlefield. And I did mention Parker's Crossroads a moment ago in Corinth. There's so much Civil War history right through here. Tupelo's not that far away. Some other smaller battles happened nearby. This is the kind of area you could really sink your teeth into, and we just spent a couple of days here. And, I always think to myself, a couple of days, that's plenty of time to go and see a battlefield in an area. It's not. Parker's Crossroads, we thought we'd spend a couple of hours there. I bet we ended up spending 5. And I could have used a whole day at Parker's Crossroads. A battlefield like this, if I could spend a whole week here and really, try to sink my teeth into, walking some of the fields and some of the sites, and there's just so much more you can do, and I'm eager to get back here. But I hope you enjoyed looking at the Larry Deberry's museum with me. If you're going to be in Shiloh, give him a call. Even if you're not going to do a battlefield tour, I think you're at least going to want to stop by and see his museum.